In today's breaking story, the New York Times has left Donald Trump completely and utterly stunned with a sudden bomb. That's right, this is shaping up to be anything but a quiet evening for Donald Trump. How's it going? My name is Hunter Avalone with Occupy Democrats. Welcome back to another video. Now, as Donald Trump continues down the path of insanity, he also continues to screw over the country just to benefit himself.
Tariff deadlines in April. Wednesday, the Commerce Department said that gross domestic product, GDP, which is the largest measure of economic activity we have, increased at a 3% annual rate in the second quarter, the second 3 months of this year. Now, lots and lots of journalists jumped on that exciting top-line number, one that seems far more impressive than the first quarter's GDP increase, which was just 0.5%. But if some of those journalists had taken about 45 seconds to look under that shiny hood, they'd have found a far less impressive rebound than it initially seemed. Here's why. That upward swing in GDP growth came from a massive and fully expected decline in imports, after a massive and fully expected increase in imports in the first quarter in anticipation of tariffs. So lots of money left our economy to bring goods in before the first tariff deadlines in April. And when imports sharply dropped, the smaller resulting trade deficit boosted the GDP growth figure. That's not so much evidence of economic prosperity as it is the result of a math equation and how GDP is calculated. Again, something that economics journalists should know.
This is exactly why Trump is getting called out over and over again, sometimes brutally.
Here is my 1/8 of the term scorecard for what actually matters. Turning the Environmental Protection Agency into the Pollution Protection Agency, yes, that's going to matter. All the people who will lose health care and all the debt that will be run up from the big, beautiful bill, yes, that matters. Turning the Justice Department into the National Revenge Agency, firing all the inspector generals, maybe firing the head of the Federal Reserve, letting DOGE destroy lives here and abroad in a way that didn't have to go down like that in order to slim the government down, which it didn't do anyway. Creating a domestic army of masked troops, rounding people up and sending them off to detention centers and foreign prisons. Yeah, the big, beautiful bill has $150 billion in it for additional spending for snatching people up who've lived here peacefully and productively for decades, mostly with no criminal records. I'm just saying, if you're thinking of getting your car washed, you might want to do it now.
But now, in today's top story, the New York Times has absolutely stunned Donald Trump with a sudden bomb. And believe me, this should concern everyone. Take a look. The New York Times just dropped a financial bombshell on President Donald Trump, revealing a jaw-dropping scheme that looks a lot like the highest bidder wins. According to newly released financial filings, MAGA Incorporated, the super PAC powering Trump's campaign, raked in an eye-popping $177 million in just the first half of 2025. But here's the kicker, a growing number of these mega donors didn't just want to support Trump, they wanted FaceTime and got it. The Times reports that these donors, many of them crypto moguls and power players, used their massive checks to score exclusive access to Trump at his Mar-a-Lago resort, with some getting far more than just a seat at the dinner table. The cryptocurrency industry alone funneled $45 million into MAGA Incorporated, led by high-profile figures like the Winklevoss twins, who together gave $4 million. Another donor, Eric Schiermeier, a crypto entrepreneur, paid $1 million for a March dinner with Trump, where he pitched a government-backed cryptocurrency called the USA token. Schiermeier bragged to the Times that his proposal is making the rounds, adding, "Mission accomplished from my view." And it doesn't stop there. The Times uncovered that several donors landed coveted government appointments shortly after their checks cleared. Surgeon Anjani Sinha gave $1 million and then was nominated as ambassador to Singapore. His confirmation hearing was a disaster, with Sinha struggling to answer basic questions about the country. Finance executive Josh Lobel paid $250,000 and landed on the president's intelligence advisory board. Energy investor Cody Campbell paid $500,000 and got a spot on the president's council on sports, fitness, and nutrition. Perhaps the most disturbing example involves Elizabeth Fago, who donated $1 million and dined with Trump in April. Just 3 weeks later, her son, Paul Walsack, a healthcare executive who had pleaded guilty to tax fraud, received a presidential pardon. A White House official downplayed the optics, saying the pardon was about a mother pleading for her son. In response, MAGA Incorporated said, President Trump values his supporters and donors, but unlike politicians before him, he cannot be bought and works toward the best interest of the country. But critics are calling this a classic case of pay to play, and with numbers like these, it's not hard to see why. At the end of the day, Trump ran on transparency, but all he is transparently corrupt.